Puff being who he is in our culture, Pac being who he is in our culture, people having the revere that they have for Pac, the love that they have for Pac years later, for it to come out that Puff had something to do with Pac getting killed, that changes a lot in our culture. That changes a lot in the history of our culture. That changes a lot in the way we look at people in our culture.
How would
Has
you
that
look
not
at
been
Puff?
has not?
How would I
been
look
stigma?
at Puff?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's
That's
not
been
a
the
new
stigma. If this
That's-
was like,
that's-
I'm telling you,
No. That was just like
if Puff had nothing, if we never heard Puff's name involved in this ever, and there was no like real crazy bad boy versus death row thing, and then in the discovery 20, 30 years later, Keefe D was like, yo, Puff Daddy hired me. Yes, that would be fucking crazy. But this has been the stigma for quite some time.
But that's what I'm asking you. I'm saying
It hasn't affected
I'm
his
saying
life.
if Keefe D in court lays it out and says basically like Puff was the one that pushed this button and sent this, that changes everything. For the way people look at Puff.
He did under oath to a police officer for a proffer agreement. He did it already.
Yeah, no. But that's
It's
but
the
that's
same as court. It just can't be used because they did it illegally.
But this is what I'm saying. That's different. Now we're talking about this is going to trial. This is an indictment. This is ready to go to trial. If Keefe D stands on trial and tells jurors in the courts that, yeah, Puff is the one that was behind this shit, that fucking changes. I don't know what I believe in this culture anymore if that happens.
How
I look
would
at
that
everything
change-
fucking
How would that
different.
change your perception of Puff?
What do you mean? How does that change my perception?
No, but like
you
actually,
can't.
what? How?
You had a direct role in something that completely shifted and changed the entire culture and landscape of
Got
hip hop.
that. With that being said, how would you view Puff?
Like that's fucked up. All these years, like it was you behind this shit, and you never we never knew, and you just walking around in these rooms acting like, yeah, look, like you're this guy. Now it's love and all of these other things. Like, bro, you single-handedly had a hand in something that could have caused a lot of deaths on both sides of the culture.
But here's where I would give Puff bail. That, based off what we know, was going to happen whether or not Puff was alive or not.
What do you mean?
What was gonna happen?
That shooting was going to take place whether Puff Daddy exists on this earth.
No,
or
we
not.
don't. You can't say that.
You
We
can't
don't know
say that.
You can't say that.
I'm just a civilian. I'm going off the documents of the people that were involved in it and what they have said happened.
Like it was gonna happen.
There was something at a mall with a death row chain getting taken by Orlando Anderson. When they went to Vegas, they saw Orlando Anderson and said, that's the guy that stole my chain. So the rival gang and Tupac went over there and jumped him. You don't think those guys that are already killers and have beef with you are not going to come back and shoot you?
But see, it's different.
That's not a Puff. You could take Puff off the planet. That's still happening.
Yeah, but see,
Sure.
If Tupac punches Orlando, Puff Daddy is not the deciding
But
factor.
back to Maul's point, which is like, if Puff is over here promoting peace and shit like that, but you were the one that sent out the hit, that's different. Regardless if the hit was gonna happen or not.
I mean, how many people on Earth have been involved in murders, crime, everything, and now practice peace?
Convert to Islam.
yeah, but we
Like,
talking
that's
about
that's actually a very
our
normal
entire
thing.
prison.
No. But but we're talking about somebody that is one of the biggest hip hop moguls in the world.
Great marketer too, by the way.
This
So
is
that's a great rebrand.
this is totally different. I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I'm not saying this does not happen. I'm saying when you have one of the biggest figures in hip hop history,
Be a piece of it.
that's a part of that shit, that pushed the button behind that shit, that sent that, bro, that changes everything.
Well, the theory by the LAPD and the Biggie situation is the LAPD, and they were up against a case already. So we can't really believe everything they say.
Mm-hmm.
They have facts that Suge got Biggie killed, or Puff was the intended target, but Suge put the money down, and that was way more direct than what happened with Pac.
Yeah, but I think the
I know
Suge
we
thing, though-
already viewed Suge a little differently than we did Puff,
right,
but
right.
It's still the same thing at the end of the day, and one actually has probably more evidence than the other.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Suge did the same.
We kind of feel,
not worse.
yeah, but Suge is different though.
I agree.
With Suge is different. It's a lot different. Suge is not the hip hop mogul that Puff is.
No.
Suge is not the artist that Puff is. Suge is not the figure that Puff is. So he had the energy with him already that this is some street gangster dude. Everybody's scared of him. You know, every comedian that made jokes about when Suge walking home, how everybody gets scared. Like, so we know that energy came with him. Puff was the guy at the shiny suits, having fun, dancing, ladies, man.
But no, Puff and Suge are both just genius marketers, and one marketed one differently. Like all the Suge's, people at Death Row would say he was a football player. He was from the neighborhood, but he was a football player, good kid. Went to college, tried to do the NFL.
Yeah, but
didn't
Rory,
make it, and then joined a gang when he was like 25.
Yeah, but at the same
and
time,
he just marketed himself as this guy. He had him.
But the difference is one marketed Death Row In one market, it's shiny suits, having fun, drinking champagne
My
in the
point-
pool with chicks.
Listen,
Like, it's a whole
my
different thing.
point is, Puff and Suge are similar people. One marketed himself as that because he had it. Puff marketed himself as the party guy. Does not mean he didn't have it too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
So,
saying he didn't, but
They
the fact
just
that
marketed differently.
but the fact
They're
that
both the same people with the same backing.
I don't know if they're the same people.
And
But
because we've seen, even I guess in more contemporary, like the Thug case, we've seen the public perception lead drastically different than how you act in your private life. So you can play two sides. I think
Yeah,
that's
but
kind of what Rory's
yeah,
saying.
but I'm just saying like, you can, but to know that it's like definite that Puff was behind this. That shakes the entire industry up,
Well,
bro.
Speaking of Suge called into TMZ and said Orlando wasn't the shooter and that there was only 2 people in the car. That's why he's never said a bad word about Orlando. But facts of the matter is we know he paid Orlando to testify on his behalf, and they had somewhat of a relationship after that shooting. Then, weeks later, Orlando was shot again.
Suge and Keefe did have a relationship. They played football together. They grew up playing football together. Like, so that's what I'm saying. This is a lot deeper. You're gonna start, uncovering some things and getting some information about shit that, it's gonna shake shit up. It's not. I don't know if people are prepared to hear what they may hear in the coming weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot at stake here. And I, on one hand, I'm happy that the family will finally probably get some resolve and some of their questions answered. But at the same time, some of these answers I think we get ready to get is going to really, really change how we view people.
I think the only way Keefe doesn't get life in prison is if he gives a confession that's different than what he's been giving to interviews, his book, and Greg Kading. Because all that stuff can't really be used, and that information is already out there. If he tells a different story of because there's already been conspiracy that Orlando wasn't the shooter, the gentleman Dre was the real shooter, or Keefe D was the shooter. If he tells the real story all the way through and doesn't change it the way he's been changing everything, maybe they would give him a deal. But he's got to give up people. I mean, everyone's dead besides Puff. So,
how do you feel about Suge saying if he's called to testify against Keefe D, he's not going to do it?
I mean, it's a little hypocritical to what I said of Suge kind of becoming that part. But even if he wasn't that part growing up, he's that part now. I think Suge for years has stood tall in the whole thing. I don't think Suge will ever testify against anyone. I do think you can have your opinions about Suge. I think he sticks to that code. I don't think he's saying a fucking word.
Now, obviously, him and Keefe D have they know each other. They grew up together. But we can say that Pac and Suge's relationship was probably more important than Keefe D and Suge's relationship.
Of course.
So as Tupac's family, do you think they have a right to feel a way about Suge not testifying on behalf of Pac?
Pac decided to align himself and actively participate within a culture that is not supposed to do that. So he played the game.
It's just,
you can feel a way, but Pac put himself in a position with people and participated in it. He's now part of that world. And that world, of course, people snitch, but you're not supposed to. And Suge hasn't done that. So I can't see him doing that or him even really being called, because all of them are not viable witnesses. Like, they have no credibility because they all constantly lie. And even Suge, after Pac died, I forgot, it wasn't Letterman, it was something, when they asked him, would you ever say who killed Tupac if you knew? And he was like, I would never, ever say.
Well, I mean, we got to wait and see. But again, man, I'm just thinking ahead here a little bit and what may or may not come of this shit. But I just feel like we're going to get some answers that, just really going to kind of shake shit up in our culture.
And we can close, but that first press conference of Vegas PD being so proud of themselves was one of the funniest things.
It's ridiculous. That shit is ridiculous.
They were really proud of themselves.
Yeah.
So y'all did not give a fuck for so long.
No.
All of a sudden, you got your back against the wall because this guy's been running around doing interviews, and people are like, all right, guys, at this point, can you do something?
The interesting
and you
thing,
did no work. You should thank Vlad, Greg Kading, Art of Dialogue, Cam. Like, Vegas PD did nothing here.
The thing about this case, too, that people are not paying attention to is that this, I think, is going to be a domino effect with the Biggie case. Because I think a lot of people that are involved in this situation know a lot about what happened with the Biggie situation. So again, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be we gonna get some answers and we gonna get some shit.
Who's alive?
Puff.
We don't know who else. We don't know who else knows anything. Who else is involved? We don't know. You saying who's alive? We don't know. And that's my whole point. Like, there's gonna be names thrown out here that we're gonna be like, who the fuck is that? And it's like, oh, that's the person that was right there when it happened. It's like, oh shit.
I mean, everyone that was in the car with Big, from C's to Gene Deal, to everyone has publicly spoken on a million interviews. Everyone that's been around it, I feel like has spoken about it publicly.
I'm talking about
the alleged shooter is dead. Suge is never going to say a word. He would indict himself even more. So I don't know who would be, unless there is a wild conspiracy, which there could be.
That's all I'm saying. Just we gotta pay attention to this shit.
You know, I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I just think this was straight up Pac punched the wrong guy.
Oh no, but that was from day one. We
got tied into Biggie, and that's the most unfortunate, pointless situation. But
lesson learned here: you niggas keep going on Vlad, and sitting down with that drum set behind you.
No,
and see where it gets you. That's all I'm gonna say. Because y'all going on there and people say, oh, nah, Vlad ain't the police. Look, he may not be the police, but the police is definitely watching every one of his interviews.
NewRoryNMal.